Hi, this is the fourth of 5 short talks entitled Solving the Economic Environmental Crisis, and the subject today is gender. Imagine looking down on a broad expanse of water and seeing some splashing, and focusing in, you notice that it's a swimmer and that the arms are splashing as they come out of the water, splash forward, pull the body forward. You can see the arms, you can see the back of the head, and then you can see the face as the head is turned to breathe in some air. And you can see the back. You can't see any legs, you can't see any feet. And you watch this swimmer swim strongly through the water and eventually arrive at an island. Now, the swimmer, imagine, has been doing nothing in its entire life, or his entire life, but swim, and tries to swim up onto the beach. You and I, from our perspective, can look at this crazy behavior and say, why don't you just stand up and walk? But from the swimmer's perspective, that is from the head and arms, the torso and the legs were nothing but an encumbrance, or something that the head and arms had to drag along through the water. But if we could stand up on those legs, they're much more powerful and they're designed specifically for that kind of progress. Well, we could advance quite easily onto the island. Now, imagine that this torso is humankind and that the arms are male, that the legs are female, and that the island is sustainability. It's time that we stood up on our legs, that we rose above our old way of doing things and progressed easily onto the island of sustainability. So today we're going to talk about male and female and see whether the biology we've inherited sort of fits this analogy. If I were to say men are larger than women, would that be true? It is true statistically, not that all men are larger than all women. If I said men are faster than women, same thing. If I said women are more caring, more nurturing, same thing. And within each gender, there is a huge amount of variation, from hyper-masculine to, let's say, very creative. And on the female side, from hyper-feminine to more athletic. And that there's a great deal of overlap, and that there's a lot of uncertainty, especially nowadays, as to what is gender. So in talking about this, it can get pretty confusing. So let's look at just sort of the center of each of those bell curves of male and female. And what is it that distinguishes them? Well, obviously it's sex organs. And to put this rather crudely and obviously, male organs are external and female are internal. Now, you may say that's no big deal, and in and of itself, that's quite true. But nature's not so foolish as to create something and then not make it follow throughout the being. And so men tend to be more focused on the outside world, on going out hunting, on going out to explore, on going out to war, and women are more focused on the inner world of nurturing, caring, giving birth, raising children. Not that this should be dictated by society. This is just the way our genes have set it up. And so men have, in our 2,000-year exploration of the world and as we expanded across the globe, men led because biologically men are expendable. Think about this. If you had a tribe with 50 men and 50 women, and most of the women are wiped out for some reason, there's no chance that tribe could survive. But if, on the other hand, most of the men are wiped out and all the women survive, you can continue to procreate and the tribe can survive. And so giving birth was the most important attribute that a tribe had. That was the sacred act, to be able to create life and to bring life into the world. Without that, nothing else mattered. And so for most of our existence, once we became religious, the center was the female, and the males were simply to provide for and to protect the women and children. And then, as you remember from our talks, about 20,000 years ago, we settled down and we started to build permanent structures. We started to clear forest and farm. And for the first time in our 3 million years of existence, we began to build things that were larger than ourselves. We began to build houses of stone and plazas of stone and then palaces. And for that, we needed help. And so as you remember from our talk about economics and how money became used instead of barter, that money gradually took on the value not of say, baskets or pots, but of hours. And so someone who was powerful had owned someone else because they could buy their hours. And so we built ever larger buildings. We cleared more forests. We farmed more land. And as we were successful and started to accumulate grains and foods through the winter, we became an attractive object for other tribes who didn't have as fertile land, but they could come in during the fall harvest, steal as much food as they wanted, and run away. And so the leaders, the male leaders, now with their money and wealth, could buy the hours of people beneath them to become soldiers and to march off to conquer other lands or to defend themselves if someone was attacking them. And so we have an economy that is based on, in large part, producing weapons, hiring men, arming men, training men, sending them off to war. We have an economy, in fact, that is very, very male-oriented. Males earn most of the money. Our activities are male, and the product of all of these activities is inanimate objects. We make things. We make weapons. We make cars. We make plants. They're all inanimate, and each one of them has been taken from nature. And we've lost that sense that the sacredness is in creating and nurturing life. And during this time, as men gained power, that's when our religion shifted from being female-oriented to being male-oriented, and that justified our behavior. So we have an economy of the inanimate, making, using, flying, driving things, and making, using, flying, driving things causes all pollution, or most of it. So we have an economy which is designed and which pays people to damage the natural world. There's one other aspect of our economy which reveals a male orientation, and that is in the process of procreation, Males are driven to short-term results. The optimum strategy for the males of a gene are to impregnate as many women as he can by whatever means he can. His genes have a greater chance of surviving if he impregnates many women. Women, on the other hand, they have gestation, and their genes are more likely to carry on if she is selective in her choice of a mate and has sex with someone who will stand by her and provide for her. So men are oriented to the short term, get it now, just do it. And women have a cautious aspect of them that says, yes, sex is wonderful. However, there's also obligations which I will have, which you, the man, will not have. And so women have in them a natural sense of the long term and the responsibility to the long term that men do not have. So let's get back to our swimmer. We can say, look, we know that you can stand. The men are saying they're up there in Congress, they're up there in their businesses, they're floundering and flashing their arms and making a big splash and lots of noise and not making an awful lot of progress. Men need to help the women and the whole humanity rise to another level and to walk into the island of sustainability. The next talk will be on what sustainability might look like and how to get there.